Hello everyone, it's Lori with Behavior Education at Spirit Keeper Equine Sanctuary. Today is Sunday, March 6th, 2022. It's the first Sunday of March, which means it's the first Sunday of the month, which means it's Super Dwarf Sunday. So let's go over and check in with Taosetti, otherwise known as TC, our Super Dwarf reticulated python from Reach Out Reptiles.
Well, everyone, how about this body language and behavior? What do you think this means? Taosetti is not shy about expressing himself, and this is absolutely his way of expressing to me that he wants out of his enclosure. I'm actually not sure he's expressing that specifically to me, or if he's just expressing that he wants out of his enclosure and also trying to escape from his enclosure on his own. But definitely once he realizes that I'm there, he moves from the center, where he has successfully escaped between the doors before, over to the edge where he knows the doors open up. And he is looking at me in anticipation of me opening the doors, which I'm not going to do at this moment. But this is typical behavior when he is not in shed. This is what I see from him every day.
Well, let's let TC out. Now notice that he has 3 locks on his enclosure. That's because if I don't keep 3 locks on his enclosure, TC gets out on his own. He knows how to slide between these plexiglass doors. You can see now that I'll show you. If the locks are not on here, because they're plexiglass and not actual glass, see, I can fit my whole hand through here, and TC has figured out that he can push his whole body through there, and he gets out that way. So I don't like him doing that for several reasons. He can get hurt, which we wouldn't want, and he shouldn't be out unless I decide to let him out, because I don't let him out if I can't watch him and supervise him and make sure that he's safe and that I know what he's doing. Now, I do let him out quite frequently. Pretty much, I work here 24/7. I'm seldom gone from the premises. So if he wants out, I generally let him out. I don't make him stay in his habitat unnecessarily. So for example, he was only in his habitat yesterday for about 4 hours, and that's because I didn't get very much sleep. I was up until, I don't know, 4 or 5 in the morning, and I made TC go back into his habitat when I went to bed, because if I'm sleeping, I can't watch him. And then I had to wake up early. I usually don't get up till 11, but I had to wake up early because I had an appointment. I only got about 4 hours sleep, and I woke up and TC was awake and trying to get out. So I let him out, and he stayed up all day yesterday, hanging out on one of the activity stations. And then he stayed out all night last night, moving around and roaming around the house and my office spaces and things. And then when I went to bed at around 5 a.m., I put TC back, and he actually did go to sleep and settle. And I'm just letting him out now. It's actually Saturday night around 9 p.m. And you're going to be seeing this footage on Sunday, which is just technically a few hours from now. So this is how I normally let TC out. I just open the door and let him go where he wants to. Normally, he has this scale station on a table right outside of his enclosure, and he's able to just come out onto that. Sometimes he sits there for hours and hours, and sometimes he moves off into the rest of the house right away, and then it's just really up to him. I mean, I don't care what he does as long as he's safe and he's not menacing any other animals that are here. We have dogs here. The cats are always put up and secured if the snakes are out. So it's really just the humans that are here that either live here or work here, and the dogs that are here, and then any other snakes that are out. That I have to make sure he doesn't bother. And sometimes he does bother others. He has been known to get territorial about his spaces. And if another human, not me, But if another human or a dog gets too close to a space that he has claimed as his, he will do a bluff strike or a snap. And if I witness him doing that, he gets put away immediately. And that would be an example of using negative punishment, where I am taking away something that's desired, in this case his freedom, as a punishment for his behavior, in hopes of reducing the likelihood that that behavior will occur again in the future. And so far, I've only had to do that, I think, 3 times, and it's worked. I think it's working because I've only had to do it 3 times, and he's going to be 3 years old in June. So I think that he understands if he does that snapping, that air snapping, or that bluffing behavior, that the bluff strikes, that it's his immediate ticket back to confinement. And so he rarely does it, but that's what happens if he does do it. I can't tolerate that. And not every snake I have does that. He's actually the only one that has done that. I have other snakes that roam around a lot, and I've never seen them do that at the dogs or anything. So TC seems to be the only one that guards stuff. All right, TC, this is becoming, what are you doing? I don't know what you're doing. I don't know where he's going. This is where TC was headed. And that's a 42-inch long dog crate for our Norwegian Elkhound. So I don't know if that gives you an idea of his length. The crate is 42 inches long. So it's just like 3.5 feet. And he's longer than it. I think he's just slightly over 4 feet long right now. And then he's very easy to weigh because half the time he sits on the scale on his own, more than half the time. So we could weigh him while he's out. I'll let him kind of get settled and see where he's headed. And then we can check in and weigh him, see how much he weighs. But yeah, 42-inch dog crate, and he's longer than it. He's at least 4 feet. I think he is slightly over 4 feet long at this point in time.
Hi everyone, I'm back, and it's officially Super Dwarf Sunday. It's almost 1 in the morning on Sunday, March 6th, 2022. And I was going to weigh TC, but I got all caught up because I had to make a video for a conference that I'm presenting at next month. I had to do some other things. We had a snake relinquished to our animal sanctuary late tonight, and I had to go do that intake, and I lost track of TC. So when I went to look for him, I'm going to show you where I found him, which is exactly where he still is now.
I'll show you where TC's not. TC is not in his enclosure. TC never chooses to be in his enclosure. He often fights me putting him back. TC would prefer to live out of his enclosure 24/7. But if you notice, there is a snake in his enclosure. That is Boreth. That is one of my Bredl's pythons. And Boreth really likes TC's enclosure. Every time Boreth is set free to exercise out of his enclosure, it is the first place that he makes a beeline for. And he spends some time climbing all around TC's enclosure. And then eventually he comes out and goes about his business. Now this is where TC is. This is a bucket that I store feeding tongs in and training targets in. And this is where TC is at right now. There's TC all the way at the bottom of the bucket, and he is attached to one of the training targets. And that's not even his target. It's the same color as his target, but that is not his target. But anyway, he's been in here for hours. And you know what? I'm ultimately just fine with that because I know where he is. He's safe. He's not getting in any trouble. And if he wants to stay in the training bucket all night, I'm fine with it. And then when I go to bed, I will just pull him out of there and put him to bed. It looks like Boreth is on his way out of TC's enclosure. And so with that, I will leave you and get back to work. I'll show you real quick what I'm doing real early in the morning on Super Dwarf Sunday. I'm working at one of my workstations, and there's another one of our snakes that's out. That's Seric, one of our royal pythons. He's been climbing around my desk all evening and decided to climb down that hole and rest with his head sticking out.
Everybody, thank you so much for watching and for joining me this month for another edition of Super Dwarf Sunday. I'll eventually get a weight on TC, maybe before I put him away later this morning, and I'll let you guys know about how much he weighs now. I'm going to venture a guess that it's around 520 to 550 grams, and we'll see if I'm right. But until next time, everybody, please remember to always be kind, love your animals, and join me in April for the next edition of Super Dwarf Sunday.